Friday, the 13th of September, 2024. Good morning, everyone. This morning's devotional is a reading from Genesis chapter 41, verse 32, and it reads, "The reason the dream was given to Pharaoh in two forms is that the matter has been firmly decided by God, and God will do it." "Don't make me tell you that again," is a phrase that often comes out of the mouths of many frustrated parents. And I think there are many frustrated parents out there today. But you won't hear that from God. You won't hear that from God. Just as it takes tiring repetition to teach our children, so too we as adults also learn through repetition. Scientists know that hearing the same information often helps us and our brains to retain that information. God also uses repetition to communicate important things to us. Beginning at the very first book of Scripture, in the book of Genesis, we find that God wanted to get an important message through to an Egyptian ruler about future events. And so he gave Pharaoh the same dream twice in a row. And we can see that in the devotional verse, Genesis 41, verse 32. When God called young Samuel to be his prophet, God called him not once, not twice, but three times. And we can find that in 1 Samuel chapter 3. Later in Scripture, in the New Testament, Jesus was having breakfast with his one disciple, Peter. Remember Peter? And he wanted to encourage Peter and communicate to him that he would one day lead the church after the ascension of Jesus into heaven. And so Jesus asks Peter the same question three times in a row. John chapter 21, verses 15 to 17, he asked Peter, "Peter, do you love me?" Needless to say, Peter got quite distraught after the second or third time. But those were the questions that were asked. One of the most reassuring things that God repeats throughout the entire Scriptures are the words, "Do not be afraid," or "fear not," or perhaps a variation of that. And that is found many times throughout Scripture. People have tried to count it, and the numbers will vary dependent on the translation that you're using. But some have said, well, there's one of these "do not fears" for each day of the year. Well, if it happens like that, and I know it's in Scripture plenty of times, perhaps God is trying to communicate an important message to us all. Do not fear. And we need to start listening to that. God knows what we just need to hear. My dear friends, if you've ever noticed a recurring theme in your personal times of reading Scripture, or even a repetition of a message given to you, or perhaps you're doing something and it keeps on going wrong and keeps on going wrong, something to take note of. Maybe we need to sit up, pay attention, and take notice and listen. As I say, if you find this repetition taking place, it's time to listen. It's time to pay attention. When God repeats himself, it is time to listen. May the Lord be with you. May he bless you. May he cause his face to shine upon you and be with you always. Goodbye.